Hello, buddy. I'm Dutch, and we are here at Treksylvania, and this is, well, it's going to be a rainy day, but we are going to have a great gathering today. I mean, if people are going to be hiking, or they want to be hikers, they got to be able to deal with being outside, right? So we are doing hammock demos here to introduce people to hammocks. You can see we got everyone's just getting set up. This is first thing in the morning, setting up some pretty hammocks. But this is my first year at this event, and I believe they do this every year. And they have a whole bunch of demos that people can come around here and they can learn about tents and camping and how to cook and gear, hiking, and it's really pretty here. You're in the middle of Pennsylvania. I love this area. I love the farms. We're in Burnville. There's rolling hills and yeah, it's just gorgeous here. So I'm gonna get set up and hopefully we can do some good demos today. See you soon. All right, so even with the rain, diehards are coming out. You can see they're doing a tent demo right now. We are set up to demonstrate our hammocks. This is the back side. Look at this gorgeous tarp that was printed. This is a mural that was painted. I forget the hiker's name, but she went around painting murals as she went, and this is for the Lookout hostel, and we printed it. This is of a painting that's on her wall at the Lookout, and it is amazing, and the print came out amazing. So we have some hummingbirds down here. Got a double Dutch set up on a hive. Show the two-person setup. Got a bridge hammock set up. There's my corn chameleon, quilted chameleon. I love this design. So down here under the pavilion, I think they're going to be demonstrating clothing and footwear, which is actually something I'm going to be interested in. Well, I think this stuff is fun to introduce new people that have interest in it. You know, we deal with people very often. People that come to us and we do customer service for are not the newbies, and this is not their first hammock. But here we get to go and show somebody, look, you can lay on the diagonal, and it is going to be far more comfortable. You're not going to sleep like a banana. How do you stay warm? How do you stay dry? It is fun taking somebody from zero. You don't take them to 60, you take them about 30, from 0 to 30. And I'm sure none of them have seen a two-person setup like the Chameleon Double Dutch. This thing is gorgeous with the moonlight top cover, so you get privacy. You know, couples, they need their privacy. There's bridge hammocks, quilted hammocks, zip-on installation, strap-on installation. It's going to be a fun time. I hope to capture some videos of the demo while we do that. So I will talk to you later.
Welcome to the backpacking demo and our hammock session. I backpack with my hammock. I am a section taker. So I started with a tent and found that the hammock was much better for my back. So since I have a friend who's the expert, I'm going to introduce you to Dutch and let him take over.
Hello everybody, I'm Dutch. So I'm going to show you how to stay comfortable in the hammock, how to stay dry in the hammock, and how to stay warm in the hammock. So reason why a hammock Why I find it superior to a tent, number one reason is you're not laying on the ground. I have a hard time crawling out of a tent and coming off the ground. There can be some weight advantages to it. And of course, when it comes to saving weight, money has a lot to do with it because you can get Dyneema tarps or something like that to really cut down the weight on it. The fill power that you put into the quilt system will be greatly dependent on it. What I really like is not having to put away a wet tent when I'm done at the end of the day or in the morning, because no matter what, they're dirty, they got leaves on them and stuff. So, and then there's comfort. You're gonna be a lot more comfortable in a hammock. It's really like sleeping in a bed. And there are people with back problems that sleep full time into a hammock. So there are different hammock styles. This is a bridge hammock, and a bridge hammock has these spreader bars on the end. And this is gonna give you what they really consider a nice flat lay. And you're gonna lay right down in the center of here. And of course, this comes with a bug enclosure. This is the Banyan Bridge hammock. And when we're done, if you have any questions, I'm gonna be here to take care of any of that. And also you can lay in these hammocks and see what they're like. So the reason it's called a bridge hammock is because you'll see that there is a catenary cut, meaning there's a curve on this. And the tighter I pull this, the more the middle pulls up. And that's gonna keep your butt from sagging and keeps this nice and straight. So you're gonna see a tighter suspension on this, and there's not near the angle coming off of here, because my goal is to make it so that your butt doesn't sag in here. But can you get a flat lay in one of these? A lot of people think you're gonna be laying like a banana in here, and I can show you, actually come down here to this one, and please feel free to crowd. This is where I want my hammock set up, that I can sit in here like a chair and I can cook. I have the tarp pulled back here, but I would have the tarp pulled front, and I'll go through tarp setup. But you see, there's definitely an angle here, and particularly if you have exposure to some of the lounger hammocks that don't have a bug net and stuff, when you lay in them, they're very short, and you wind up, it's kind of okay to be at a festival or to read a book or something like that, but it's not really comfortable to sleep in. And this is the trick to it. So here, I'm bent, but watch what happens to my feet when I put them to the left, and then my head to the right. Now this panel's coming up here and I'm disappearing, but you then are laying flat, because that allows the foot to lower and your head to lower. And that is really what's key to sleeping in a hammock, is laying on the diagonal. So camp-wise, this is gonna be my camp chair. If this tarp comes out, I like to put my trekking poles so that it's gonna hold the tarp up higher, and I get great views. I can cook from here, and it's absolutely fantastic solo. We also have a setup where you can put two hammocks and these zipper together. One of the tricks to this hammock, which is the chameleon hammock, is that it has a special zipper, and the zipper is made so that you can change this to whatever you're going to be taking. It changes to your environment. That's why it's called the chameleon. This top cover that's on here could completely come off, and you could reduce the weight if you're not worried about bugs. You could put a bug net on, like the orange one that's down there. You can go from none to a bug net, or you could use a top cover. I consider this a winter top cover. And when this is on here, you are really going to keep your body heat in here, and it is going to be like 10 or 15 degrees warmer inside of this hammock compared to a bug net or no net, which is quite a big difference. If it's 30 outside and it's 40 in your hammock, it's a lot more comfortable. The fact that you're laying on this fabric is really, really a bonus. You can use a sleeping pad if you want to put that in the hammock. This one is considered a quilted hammock, meaning that there is a quilt with down right on the bottom here, and that is really the ultimate. But a lot of people getting started, they already have sleeping pads. You can put a sleeping pad in here, and you want to put it on the diagonal. And there is a trick to that though, because if you go and you sit down and you turn to get into the hammock, the sleeping pad turns with you, and you're like an airplane, and you're not on the pad. So the trick is that if you have a double layer hammock, you slide the pad in between the double layer hammock, between the two layers, and then you put it there, and that way when you turn, the pad will stay, and that will insulate you from the cold. Having a sleeping bag in here, people think that's going to keep them warm because they got sleeping bag all the way around them. However, you're going to be compressing the insulation underneath you, and you will get cold. And you will get cold at 60 degrees at night because all that's in between you and the outside is some smashed feathers and a couple layers of nylon. And the only thing that keeps you warm is the fact that you have this big lofty down trapping air. So there's really 3 ways to protect you on this. One is you use a sleeping pad. 2 is you use an underquilt, which an example of an underquilt would be the camo one right here, and that straps right to the hammock. And then there is the zip-on, which is the orange. So that same zipper system that makes it so that you can remove this top cover actually attaches in so that the zip-on underquilt attaches right to it. The advantages to having one that's quilted or a zip-on like that is it doesn't move in the night. And if you strap one to you, when you roll around and stuff, very often it'll come off your shoulder because you're laying so hard on the diagonal. And I've even woke up and I'm freezing cold and I don't know why, and it's because the quilt's dangling over here beside me and not underneath the hammock. It has actually been a fairly recent innovation where the insulation is attached to the hammock and is insulating you right on it. So that's bottom insulation. For top insulation, you can use a sleeping bag. And when I threw like the AT in 2003, they didn't have all this quilts weren't invented yet, and all you had was little tiny tarps. It was really in its infancy. This is very much a growing trend of the last 20 years, particularly the last 10 years, of people sleeping in hammocks versus tents. So this is a quilt, which basically it is a sleeping bag, but it doesn't have a back. And my back is going to be insulated with this insulated bottom. And what's really nice about this is you just put your feet in that foot box and you put it up like a blanket. There is a snap here that I can snap around it, but truthfully, I don't do that unless it's super cold. And it's really like sleeping in your bed.
What degree did you carry on your through hike?
I started with a 0 degree and then I moved to just a fleece. So
This is a 0, so you can see the bulk on this
Yep.
versus.
And then this is a 50. These things are made from, the materials have changed so much since ultralight backpacking has come out. This is a 15 denier fabric, almost unheard of 15 years ago. And the quality of down these days is absolutely amazing. So it's been a great benefit to the industry and also backpackers. So if you are solo camping, now generally you're gonna need trees. East Coast, almost never a problem. And you need trees where there's nothing in between them. But you're gonna find a lot more places to camp than if you have a tent, because I don't need level ground. I don't care about the roots that are down there. And when I through hiked, what was really great about this was that I could hike not to where the campsite is. I could hike till I'm done, find 2 trees and set up. And when I look out here, I see places all over that I could set up. And it would not be, even this ground here is not really level enough for a tent. And you would have to be, well, I'm gonna have to sleep in this direction. I don't care about rocks, I don't care about roots because I'm elevated above it. So you're gonna have greater site selection, but also you're gonna put a lesser impact on the environment. When you set up a tent, if there's not an established tent site, you're probably gonna come here and you're gonna remove all of this and you're gonna take this rock out of here and you're gonna make a flat spot. And that probably will become a campsite for the next person that comes through there. And it's not dispersed camping. Dispersed camping would be, I set up here and when I'm done, nobody will know that I was there. And maybe nobody else will ever camp there again because I didn't change it to make it so that it would be a campsite. And on the AT in particular, this is really great because you can really see where those established campsites are, and it really does change the environment. And also, I had the freedom to stop where I wanted to. I would stop at a shelter and I would cook my meal, which really you don't want to be cooking around your campsite anyhow. I would hike a mile out, throw my pack on. I'm now a mile ahead of everybody else, and I'm not with where the mice are, not where the snakes are that eat the mice, and all the snorers and things like that. So I really found it to be a great benefit. If you are not hiking alone, I don't have many friends, but some of you may have friends.
Of your friend.
All right, I got a friend. So This system here is a 2-person setup, and if you put 2 people in a hammock, you can lounge and you can read a book or something, but you're not going to be comfortable sleeping. It's really not going to be meant for 2 people. But if you have 2 independent beds, and if you see this body, this gray one and this blue one are just 2 chameleons, just like those. And we use that same zipper system to put a panel in between them to attach them. And this one is a winter top cover. This even comes with a, let me find the zipper on here, with a moonlight cover that you can remove, so you could have the ventilation, but you can make it more private, darker, and also warmer, because this panel actually removes in here. And if you need more ventilation, if one person needs ventilation and the other person doesn't want that, they can achieve that with the moonlight system. And one of the real beautiful parts about this is this unzips. So if you're going solo, you have a bug net that you put on yours, and then if you find a friend and the next trip, you can zip them together. And if that friend is annoying, you can unzip them and send them their own way. One of the tricks to having 2 systems is that I have 2 suspensions on here. And I happen to have a 2-person stand here. This is the Hive Yobo stand. But if I had 2 trees, I would put these together. And then we have something that's like a spreader bar, which is much like this, that actually goes into this hole right here and holds the 2 apart. And that way you're not bouncing into the other person. You will feel the other person move, just because this is gonna do a little bit of that if they're, hopefully they're not that restless of a sleeper. I liken it to being in a waterbed. That's the amount of movement that you're gonna get, because you have 2 independent suspensions, but they are still connected. I know that when I camped with my daughter, I got a better night's sleep because I knew she was okay and she wasn't 20 yards away and freezing and cold and stuff. And I could sleep better knowing that. And very often when I hike with my wife, this is the way to go. Suspensions has been really taken an evolution through the years. And we've gone from just tying ropes. Then people started using webbing suspensions. And actually putting webbing around the tree is really important, because if you use ropes, and these new ropes are super incredible. This is Amsteel rope. It has a like 1,700 pound breaking strength, but it's thin. And if you lay in the hammock, you're actually putting more weight than your body weight when you get into the hammock and you load up the hammock. So you want to disperse that on the tree, because this can be bad for the tree if you cut into the bark. And then you can allow for disease to get in there. And really, the only part of a tree trunk that truly is alive is just the part that's underneath the bark. So you want to protect the trees so the tree's there the next time. And when you use webbing, it disperses that. It's even better if you go around twice. It really disperses it. So on the suspension here, I have a Dutch clip. And actually, this is my very first invention. So people used to use carabiners for this, and I was like, I don't want to carry a carabiner. So I made this clip. This is made out of titanium, and you go around the tree, or here you go around the pole, and you hook upon it. On a gathered end hammock, you want to have a 30-degree angle coming from the tree down to the hammock. And the best way to do that is to do this, and you can get a very close guesstimate, because this should be 30 degrees. There's another tool to make it so you have exactly that 30 degree. If you have this at a 30 degree, you're putting your body weight on there. But if I string this really tight, I could be putting up to 1,000 pounds of pressure on the tree, which is not good for the tree. And it's also not good for the suspension or the hammock. So on the hammock is something called a ridge line. And this does several things. One thing it does is holds the bug net, or holds your top cover up above here. Also, you can put a storage option that's up on this, and it's just a thinner version of that rope. This rope actually has a 400-pound breaking strength, and this is considered zinget. But there's another thing it does, and this is a tool, and it is 83% of the distance, the length of the hammock. And you get this smiley face that's here. So if I go and I set this down much lower than the 30 degrees that I mentioned about, it will pardon me a second. there will be a different sag than the one that's here. That 83 degrees makes it so that when you lay on that angle, that you get that flat lay. If you have a lesser, it's going to change that. Now maybe you want that changed, and maybe you want a slightly different one, but what you want is a consistent, every time that you hang it, it's going to be the same. So if I now put weight on this hammock, and when I set up, this is the first thing I do. I want to see how high I am, and I want to see what the ridgeline's doing. Let me pull this back and see how the ridgeline's sagging. That is telling me that this is no longer 83% of the length of the hammock fabric. And I know that, and this obviously is not a 30-degree angle, so I know that I tighten that up. And now when I put weight in the hammock, this should be at least straight. I like to reach up here when I lay in the hammock, and I should still be able to bend it. If I make this super tight, and I put this at, 10 degrees, I'm still gonna keep the same smiley face sag that's on here. So I'm gonna have exactly the same lay. And so you can over tighten it and still have the same comfortability, but you are putting weight needlessly on the tree, and you're putting more tension on the suspension than what you have to, and it's just not good for the whole system. Although it does a great function of holding this up, it is actually really key to hanging your hammock right. Also, I generally keep my foot end a little bit higher than my head end, and that really keeps the back flat. We're talking 3 or 4 inches, but I'll look here and you can see that this is going to be slightly higher over here than this side.
If you're level, you tend to slide.
Because most of your weight is on your torso. So go ahead.
Can you add how much does a typical backpacking hammock weigh? And also, if someone's a side sleeper and doesn't necessarily sleep on their back, can you give us some tips on that?
Sure. Very often, now all this depends on the thickness of the fabric and whether or not you have a top cover and a bug net, but you can pretty much count on each piece being a pound. Tarp can be a pound, the hammock can be a pound, your quilt often less than a pound, and your underquilt's usually a pound. And that's really a ballpark, and then there's a huge variance in between that they can go from a half pound to a pound and a half on all those, but each piece is there. So for side sleeping, I have no trouble sleeping on my side, and generally I do. I put my left leg underneath my right leg and kind of do a figure 4 when I turn on my side. And the bridge hammock is really, I think the key to sleeping in a bridge hammock is not flat on your back. It's actually like 25 degrees that you just switch here, and you're like this in the hammock. And if you are flat on your back, I can do that for about an hour, and then I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm in a casket. But if you go and you turn a little bit and you turn your knee up, it is really gonna, that's where I sleep at all night, and pretty much on my side. And there are people, I'm not a belly sleeper, but there are people that sleep on their belly in a bridge hammock. I think that it's pretty difficult to do it in a gathered end hammock. For the length of a hammock, these are 11-foot long hammocks. My recommendation is that the hammock be 5 foot taller than you are, because what happens is there's a sweet spot in here, and this part right here is not where you want to be laying in. You want to be laying in down here, because you can see from here to here, I can make it flat. And if you have a hammock, when hammocks first came out, they were really short. They were under 9 foot long, short, or under 9 foot, which that means that I am utilizing up to here on this hammock, because I'm 6 foot tall. And now, pretty much standard for a gathered end hammock has become 10 or 11 feet. Most are 11 feet. All right, so that's how to stay warm. That's how to stay comfortable. Last thing is the tarp. And tarps are fun because there's all different configurations on them. And now, I mean, it used to be you either got black, gray, or green tarps. And now we've thrown all kinds of color onto them. Burn here, you can see the print of the lookout. That is a mural that was painted last year, I believe. Yep. That's on her hostel, by the way. If you ever heading up to 309, she has the lookout hostel. And that's a mural painted on the side of her barn. We took photographs of it, we printed on there, and now you can do all these decent prints. There are basically 3 shapes. I don't have a hex with me, but a hex would come in here. Actually, I think this is a hex tarp right here. And this is really great for summer coverage and you don't have to worry about blocking wind. For the, I like a rectangle personally, because I feel like you really get great coverage. The sil nylons and the sil polyesters of today are so light that the little panel of fabric that changed this from a hex there is so worth it. If I really wanted to, I could close this up and make this into doors. You can see I keep mine pitched back when I have it set up, but as Bern has right here, I could undo the back side and I could flip it out here, and she already has these attached on here that are staked to the ground, and in seconds this could be pitched completely across here. I pitch my tarp as high as the weather will allow. So if I'm not really worried about rain, or I'm not worried about the wind blowing and making it cold, I'm going to get it really high so that I can stand under here when I'm setting up. And another trick is you can take your trekking poles and you can set them up here, and now the tarp, are you gonna unhook it and send it to me? So there's two ways that you can use this. One, you'll see pullouts like on this brown tarp here, or this, I guess it's an olive tarp, and you can use the trekking poles to open it up and putting this over the ridge line, and then those black tabs that you see in the middle there can be attached to this trekking pole. Another trick is, this is called a BCD. So you would stake it like this, and it gives you great views when you're setting up. And if it is rain and it's not really blowing rain, this is a great way.
Oh, I thought you were showing the pole mod.
Okay, so it also can be done so that you are hooking up on here, and if this is staked down, you can see how that really opens up the middle and gives you a lot more room inside there. They also make spreader bars that will hold this open. There's even spreader bars that go and hold it open like a covered wagon. But if it is a snowy, rainy day, wind's blowing, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get this pitched right down onto the hammock. I'll sacrifice room that I don't have wind blowing underneath. They make longer tarps that can be set up, that this can go right to the ground. And this particular tarp, can we unhook this? Yep. This particular tarp is a winter tarp, and it has doors. So you are now like a tent with your hammock inside of it. And then you can just keep the doors pulled back. There's great versatility in this. This is a winter tarp, and this thing is well underneath a pound. And well, they're amazing. You know how much it weighs?
I'm not sure anymore.
Okay. I would put this probably at 3/4 of a pound though, and for what you get for protection from it. They have Dyneema tarps, and those things are coming in at about 5 ounces, which is truly amazing. They just don't pack down quite as much. So you can see here we added a storage pocket. So that zipper system that I talked about, that makes it so I could remove the bug net, also could remove this big pocket right here. And I could go with no net, I can go with the pocket, I can take the pocket off, and this quilt system is zippered onto that same zipper track. This actually is a patented zipper that I invented that's really the key to this whole system. It makes it so the two hammocks zip together, it makes it so I can put insulation on the bottom. I can add a different assortment of pockets, and it's why it really adapts to your environment. It's why it's called the chameleon, is that you can change it for the trip that you're going to. I like to go on a lot of adventures. So sometimes I'm in the desert and sometimes I'm in the alpine.
And if I'm backpacking, I maybe wouldn't want this on there because grams matter to me. So I may take this off if I'm backpacking versus if I'm going out with friends.
What I really like about this pocket is you can stick your quilt in there. You get in the hammock and then you pull the quilt over top of you. And it's big and billowing. I can fit, this is a winter quilt. I can access this from the outside or the inside, and I can even access underneath the quilt, underneath the pocket to access the quilt, because if you have a strap-on quilt like this, they slip off you. One of the really neat things about hammocks is if you like to tinker and to modify your stuff, you really can do that with this. There's all these different configurations, but if you see some of those setups up over there, you could take pieces of that and the different suspensions. Suspensions are one of the easiest ways, because this is only connected by this hook. And I consider this suspension to be a very easy and convenient one. But if I wanted to go ultra light, I have lighter straps and that I could use whoopee slings with, and I could make this lighter if I'm going. It's just a simple change out of take something different. The bug nets, you can see the one bug net is going around the entire hammock. And of course, you can configure the different tarps because it's all done in components. It's all done modularly. If you're in a tent, it's, well, what pad or what sleeping bag am I taking? So
Pack all this down, Dutch. Will it fit in that backpack?
absolutely. That one, I got a really neat trick on this one, and this is called an anaconda. So I think I got time to tear this down, and you'll see what this becomes. So this bar, so from here, I like to start on this side. I always put red on my head end for the loop, because that way I know which end is going to be my head end. When you pull the stuff out, very often you're pulling out stuff from a nylon stuff sack, and I want to know which way I'm going to be pointing. So red for head, and then this becomes a compression bag. I remember my top quilt is also in here, so this is all of my insulation. This bag is made out of Dyneema, so it's going to be waterproof, and it is super strong.
Of course, you would fit his straps in there yet too, so everything's together.
Actually, there's a secret pocket in here to put your straps on. I put Dyneema between that layer because the straps very likely will be wet, and you don't want to get them with your insulation. So we made this so it's oval, so it fits into your pack better. And then for the tarp, this is called a tarp sleeve. I'm a lazy hiker, so I don't wrap up my strings. But what this does is going to keep things strung out like this so they don't get tangled. And then I undo that. You want to keep your tarp, and generally if my straps are wet, I want to keep them on the outside of my pack. They are the first thing that I set up. They're the last thing that I tear down. That way I can tear down my setup in the dry. I do that if it's raining or it's not raining, because it's like muscle memory. Come up here, set up my tarp right away, and make it so it's the same thing I tear down. So it'll be super quick. I can do it pretty quick. 5 minutes is 5 minutes is about it.
Should probably open it up to questions because I think we're done.
Yep. If anybody has any questions, if anybody wants to try to lay in a hammock, we can, and
If you're a side sleeper,
yeah.
bridge hammock best?
I still like gathered end. You're gonna be, I consider a bridge hammock not a side sleeper, like a shoulder sleeper, like this, all right? And that's different than this.
Yeah.
And the reason is because where this is shaped like this hammock actually has a bend like this. So if you lay completely on your back, you're actually like this. But if you go like this, then you become straight and you're on the plane with the hammock.
Okay.
So. Anybody else have any questions or anything? Okay, that means I said everything, right?
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess you guys move over to navigation, which is...
So it started to rain, but I feel like we got the second hammock presentation in. It was really fun to do this with people that aren't used to hammock camping. Actually, I don't even think there was very many that were really used to camping. So it was totally new for them, and seeing their hunger and for knowledge, answering all their questions, it was pretty neat. Try to keep you dry. Bern and Vicky, they're tearing down, and they were of great help. And right now they're doing stove and cooking, bear bag, and also a backpack demonstration. I'm gonna sneak in here and get a little piece of that demonstration.
The one store, I don't know.
So we get to eat lunch, and I'm not sure what's going to happen for the afternoon, but this is open until 5. It was really neat to see this property for the first time. I want to take a look around. But there's gorgeous wildflowers everywhere, and very much some great hiking trails through here. Definitely the central Pennsylvania. Has a central Pennsylvania feel and vibe to it. It's really neat. So, well, that's going to be all for us. Peace.
And I also in the hospital on the AC. At 309. We're 309. Yeah.
The lookout.
It's beautiful.
It is.
Thank you. We're just starting to see this well. We've seen through hikers, but it's getting a little more steady flow of through hikers and flip-floppers. But anyway, I started out with him. I am a section hiker, 1,000 miles in now, and so I got a tent, shared the weight, didn't know, got a heavy tent, shared the weight with my daughter, and had some lower back issues, pretty big flat, and someone suggested trying a hammock. And so I started with the basic hammock and slowly have upgraded. So my backpacking hammock is the orange one down here. I have become friends with Dutch and Vicky from Dutchware. So since he's a good friend of mine, I'm just going to let him take the lead. So,
Hey everybody, I'm Dutch. So I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail 2003, and I did it in a hammock. There really wasn't much for hammocks back then. So when I got out, I started making my own gear, mostly because I was cheap and didn't want to buy gear. Eventually wound up, we manufacture all this in Lancaster. And we're making the titanium hardware that's connecting this and this. We're printing these tarps, we're sewing these hammocks up, and we're very proud that we are doing it in the USA and doing it here. So,
Your connection devices are the great.
thank you. I'm no, it's bling, we call it bling. So, Vicky here is customer service for us. So if you have questions before you make a purchase or something, you can call her, you can email her, and she'll totally take you through here. And we are hikers building hiking gear, and we're real gearheads. So I want to go through why you use a hammock and the benefits that there are in using a hammock, how to set them up, how to stay dry, how to stay warm, and how to stay comfortable. So a hammock, one of the reasons I really like it better than a tent is comfort, that you're gonna be so much more comfortable in a hammock than laying on the ground. I don't do well crawling up out of the ground. Just did a trip not too long ago in the Grand Canyon, and it was not a pleasant morning crawling out of that tent and having the squeaky mattress throughout the entire night. So hammocks, there's great comfort. There's also site selection. I was in the Grand Canyon. You're not allowed to have a hammock in the Grand Canyon, and they don't have a whole lot of trees. So, but here on the East Coast, we got trees everywhere. And when I look out here, I see places that I could hang a hammock. There's almost no place that I can't stop and just be like, okay, those two trees are where I'm gonna be. All I need is 12 to 15 feet in between two trees with no trees in between them. It is gonna be so much better for the environment than setting up a tent. Almost all of this, now maybe where the driveway is, where it's been leveled, you could set up a tent, but there's not that many places that are free of any type of bush or tree, rock or root. You're gonna wind up being in an established campsite. So when you're hiking, you lost that freedom. Now you have to be not where you wanna stop for the night. You have to be where that campsite is. If you're on the AT, you might get there and there's a party there. And then you're gonna have to hike to the next one. And then finally you're gonna give up and you're gonna just be like, well, I can make a flat area here. And you make a flat area, but then you're changing the environment and you're making an established campsite. You can really tell where people have camped with tents over the years, and they've cleared them out, they've made flat spots. And when I take down my hammock, nobody knows that I was ever there. I did not change the environment. Maybe nobody ever camps there again. It really is dispersed camping. Better for the environment, especially if you use things like tree straps to help protect the trees. So I'm gonna have better site selection. When I thru hike the Appalachian Trail, I would stop at the shelter, I could socialize, but then I'd throw my pack on. I'd cook dinner, have dinner with everybody, but then I throw my pack on, I walk another mile. I'm now a mile further than anybody else, and I can just stop when I no longer wanna hike and just put up my hammock and camp. And I'm away from the people that are snoring. I'm away from the mice, the people that come in the middle of the night, or the people that wake up early in the morning. It's truly being on my own. So the hammocks of today have been the last 20 years has improved so much in ultralight. Backpacking in general has improved, so all the materials have improved, but it used to be that we would have to use materials from other industries, and that no longer. Now you can get materials that are made specifically for the hammock, and they're meant for comfort. The weight has really come down, and they rival the weight of a tent, and they're certainly better in all other aspects. If I'm gonna set up, I do this as a routine. If it's raining or it's not raining, the first thing I'm gonna do is set up my tarp. And I keep that on the outside of my pack because that likely is going to be wet. And I wanna set that up because that way I'm gonna have a dry area to camp under. And having the dry area is really awesome. If you've ever been in a tent in the rain, you are confined to that, it feels like 6 by 1.5 feet space. It really feels tight, all right? And if there's 2 of you, oh my goodness. Here, I'm gonna make this nice big dry area. So this is called a tarp sleeve. It's just a mesh sleeve, but it keeps everything nice and neat. And it makes it so that water can continue to drip out of this should this wind up being wet. I string this to the trees. I have a little piece of titanium hardware. This is called a stinger. I make, like I said, I make all these in Lancaster, but if it is a stingy, bitey thing, it holds your tarp up. And if it is a parasitic wormy thing, like a ringworm, it holds your tarp down. And that's kind of some of the fun in designing gear, is that I get to put, I put that aspect of it, that I make things look like bugs. So I'm bringing nature in. Some of our stuff, we have a wasp, and you would swear it looks like a necklace that you would wear or a pair of earrings that you would wear. So on this piece, with the magic of TV, I've already have this set up. Now, if it's raining, I have this tarp. I just keep it back like this for demonstrations. But I would set up, if there was no rain, I would set this up like this, and then if it is rain, I can quickly pitch it out. So hammock straps, you want to use some type of strap going around the tree. Sometimes that is a hugger that goes around here, or the entire suspension is a piece of webbing. You don't want to put a thin rope on the tree. Paracord actually is very bad because it stretches, but that will cut into the tree. Particularly some trees have thinner bark, and the Cambrian layer underneath this bark is really the living part of this trunk. If you cut into it, you are allowing disease or bugs to penetrate into it, and it will harm the tree. And I certainly have seen that. So if you have a piece of webbing going around there, it is going to keep it tighter. Looks like we're gonna be pitching tarp because I think it's gonna be raining. So I'm gonna talk a little quicker. This is called a Anaconda. This is a compression bag. This has my entire setup in here. Each item, now, so many things are dependent on that. The size of the tarp, the material that it's made from, but very often you'll be looking at a pound per item. So a tarp is a pound or less. You get that down to 5 ounces if you have Dyneema. A hammock very often is a pound. That's with the suspension. And then there's under quilt and there's top quilt. And there's corn on the cob. So I have the ability to print, so I get to do fun things like this and make this. This is actually a quilted hammock. But, so this has my whole setup in here. This is my top quilt. This is my bottom quilt. If you're just getting started, you can use a pad instead of a quilt. But I do recommend that you get a long enough hammock, one that is generally 5 foot longer than you. They make shorter ones, and they sell really well on Amazon because, well, they're affordable and they look exactly the same. But if you are not long enough, you're not gonna be comfortable, and then you're not gonna like what you're doing, and you're gonna get out of it. So if you wanna do this step by step, start with a long enough hammock, because that way you're gonna be comfortable, because comfort is one of the most important reasons for this. When I set this up, you can see the tree straps are really high, particularly on this one, and that's because I have to have a 30-degree angle coming down from here. And the reason, well, the way I do that is I do this, and that generally gets me very, very close. The hammock is 11 foot long, and this ridge line that's on here is 110 inches long, and that happens to be 83% of the length of the fabric, and that gives me this smiley face. So if I pitch this thing really tight, I have that same smiley face. So when I come here and I sit down, And I'm really looking for something that's 18 inches off the ground. Notice I go in easy. So now if the tarp's pitched over me, I have a great seat here. I can cook from here, and this is going to be a great place to camp. That tarp's over me. I got 3 foot of
How's that flammability?
dry.
Well, if you're cooking, what about flames?
I would not get flames around this at all. It is nylon and feathers. You will burn up. So on here is a ridge line, and I want to reach up here and I want to feel this, that this isn't sagging, right? And this is actually becomes a tool. So that ridge line is this string right here. And this is actually pretty tight. I should be able to bend this a little bit more. So actually I know my suspension is actually a little bit tight on here, and I should loosen a little bit. If that might mean that I have to push the straps higher up the tree, because if I loosened up, I would wind up being on the ground. So you push the straps a little bit higher on the tree. The reason the straps are so high on this hammock is the trees that we used here were further apart. So the further apart the trees are, the higher you're gonna have to put the straps. When I first set up, I set up my tarp first, because if my tarp fits, I know my hammock's gonna fit. And I've done it where I've set up my hammock, and then I go to put in my tarp, and I'm like, oh, my tarp doesn't fit, and then I gotta go get some other place. But if you set up your tarp first, every single time, you're gonna have a dry area to set up, and it becomes routine, but also, you know your hammock's gonna fit, because your tarp fit. So, that's gonna get you set up to get comfortable. A lot of people think that you sleep like a banana in a hammock, and they envision doing this, and people do this when they are in those lounger hammocks, and it's not a bad way to read a book. It's actually, you got your feet propped up, but this is hyperextending my knees right now, and it's not all that comfortable, particularly for sleeping. And then if I get on my side, it's even worse, because now I'm trying to bend my knees in ways my knees don't bend. So this is lying on the diagonal, and I put my feet over here to the left, and I put my head to the right, and I really invite everyone to try this later. You'll see that you get totally flat, and this is comfortable. A lot of people ask, what about side sleeping? It is no problem side sleeping. It actually almost makes a natural pillow for you. So laying on the diagonal is really key, and in order to do that, you have to have a long enough hammock, because you can imagine 3 foot on either side is very narrow, and you only have this sweet spot on the center 6 foot of this hammock. And the sweet spot being from where my feet are to where my head is. That's how you stay comfortable, to keep warm. Actually, this product you're seeing here is something that I released only Wednesday, and this is a quilted hammock. I've been working on this for a very long time, and this insulation out here is quilted onto this hammock. So if I put a sleeping bag inside of here and I lay it on it, like she's mentioned, you are compressing the insulation between your body and the hammock. Here, the insulation is strapped to the outside of it in some form and will keep its loft. If I compress it, all I have is some smashed feathers and some layers of nylon between me and the outside, and you will get cold. And you can have the warmest sleeping bag, and you will get cold coming. And it is not a pleasant night. It is.
Is this down?
This is down. So on this particular one, this is a quilted hammock, and it's like sleeping in a quilt. So all this is the hammock fabric, and then there's the down, which is 850 fill down. So it's a really high-end down, and then a layer keeping the down from falling off. Right. And then we make it look like corn, because
Yeah. Where are the patterns?
we do have a banana hammock.
Well, Lancaster, I can see the corn effect.
Yes.
We got more.
I will keep moving on. What time is lunch?
I think soon.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So keep dry, you want to have a tarp above you. So this is a rectangle tarp. I really like rectangle tarps because I can make pseudo doors on the end. Down here, this olive one is a hex tarp. It's really good for summertime because it's going to cut some weight. And this is a winter tarp. And although it is pulled back, and we're going to leave it pulled back, Bern, you can see that you can make a door over here And it's almost like you have made a tent that is completely over your hammock and completely case you in. So these hammocks are chameleon hammocks, except for this one is a bridge hammock, but all these you're able to change them. If you see down here, this one has this bug net, but this bug net could zipper off. And I could put that top cover in place of that. So you go without the bug net. If you're going bug season, you put the bug on there so you have bug protection. And if you're going in winter camping, then you have. So, check out all the gorgeous, oh man, this thing's just about to bloom. You can see, look, some of those blooms are, the lower ones are coming in. But look how gorgeous this thing is gonna be in, I don't know, about 2 weeks. They put a lot of work into making this place. I mean, and look, porta potties grow here. They have a nice wash station. Ah, look, they got, for education purposes, here they're showing signs for what each one of these are. Redbud, the Eastern Redbud. And I can see why they call it that. Yeah, I thought this is a dogwood. Man, it is just blooming now. I think that's a rhododendron. I get rhododendrons and azaleas mixed up. I've never been here before, but this is a really cool place. And oh wow, look at the mural they have down here. I wonder if this is the same one that was done by the thru hiker. I don't know her signature. Oh, I believe it's done by Albright College, but so that's what greets you when you come pulling in here. Pretty neat, pretty neat. Down here we're doing some demos on stoves and footwear and gear, and I'm going to try to sneak in here in the back and try to tune in a little bit. The education they're giving here is totally invaluable. Actually right here they're doing a demo on bear bagging. See, they got their throw rock and bear bag, and that's something that newbies need to know. How do you protect your food?
You could definitely feel. I don't have any silk on me now.
Silk is the best for
Yeah, some people like the silk. Yeah, I do have a lot of.
especially when you're going up high.
I don't have them on the table and wearing them. This is wool and this is an alpaca, the version of these. But these basically, they go on top of your shoe, like they slide.
I don't want to narrate over their important information they're given, but well, this is the Blue Ridge Hiking Trail. This is their headquarters, and I think they own 22 acres here. And well, all volunteer, no budget. They take care of this, they do all the work. And then I believe they do trail maintenance on the AT, and the world needs hiking clubs, and what they're doing here is great work. So, once again, there's somebody else holding some type of class. I'm going to try to sneak in, but I'm going to let them talk so that I don't interrupt their class.
Tell me when I can stop.
Ah, they're teaching people how far away to keep from wildlife.
If I was a squirrel. Am I good?
More fun stuff. So, one thing I love to do is get out, either get on a bike, get on a skateboard, and get to go tool around a little bit. And no matter what my mode of transportation, whether I'm hiking, driving, try to make it fun. Now I get to go see some of these grounds. These all-terrain skateboards are amazing. And how they can take hills. and hopefully I don't break my neck. So far, I seem to be okay. I think this wasn't a bad turnout for such a new event, and the fact that there was rain totally in the forecast. I think the rain, it was supposed to rain all day. We had to tear down real quick because we were getting rained on, and I don't want to have to dry out gear. I'm still gonna have to dry out a little bit, but it's way better than having soaked quilts. I think there's still demos going on. They got some sheltered areas, and I hear some people in the woods. I think they're doing some foraging. I know they're doing some camp stuff, camp stoves, how to cook, food bag, how to hang a food bag. And this actually is going to be going on for quite a few hours yet. So great for bringing in people and getting people out in the wilderness, getting people out adventuring. And I think that is just awesome, because in this world of constant technology, to get out here without the technology is, well, I think it benefits people in ways they don't know. I'm gonna go grab some lunch. Peace out. So everyone gets treated to a lunch that's brought in, and we have a special treat where someone is going to be demoing their way of doing backpacking foods, and I am really looking forward to this. I'm trying not to impose, but I did get permission to film them, and I hope you find it entertaining.
And hiking opportunities in Pennsylvania, and we do this in a variety of ways. So we do advocacy, we do training, we work with trail and hiking clubs around the state and try to be a good partner to them, help them fulfill their missions. We also do trail maintenance, or what we call our trail care program, which works on trails, well, really all over the state, but mostly, and especially in the north central part of the state, where there aren't as many local trail and hiking clubs. And then lastly, but not leastly, we do what I call trail promotion, and that sort of has two aspects to it. One, it's providing information about trails, whether it's guides and maps or just other information about places to hike. And I should say, we do events and outings to help get people onto the trails. So whether those are hiking weekends or slack packs or backpacks or different programs, we try to get you out, help get you out, and get you familiar with some of the organizations that are helping to lead outings in their respective communities. So I'll go over at the end, I'll tell you about some of the literature I brought with me today. But let's dive in. So when we talk about the great hiking trails of Pennsylvania, it's important to put this into context of the estate of trails we're talking about. So one estimate by Pennsylvania DCNR is there's something like 12,000 miles of trail in Pennsylvania. So let's assume those aren't, we know those aren't all, our version of hiking trails. Some of them are shared use trails, some of them are rail trails, but probably 90% of that number or more, 99%, are hikeable, right? So we have a lot of trail miles in Pennsylvania to explore. Out of those 12,000 miles, we have 2 national scenic trails. We have 18 designated state forest hiking trails, which I'll talk a little bit about later. We have other major trails that aren't necessarily, either of those designations, but they're pretty cool long distance trails. And we have many other community local trails to explore. Just to put that into context, KTA is based in Mechanicsburg in Cumberland County, but right across the Susquehanna River is Dauphin County, and Dauphin County has a nice county park system. So they have, if you're familiar with Wildwood Lake Park, Wildwood Park, Detweiler Park, those 2 places probably have between them 8-10 miles of hiking trails. And that's just a little tiny snapshot of one county, let alone what's out there. So Hence you get to that 12,000 number, right? Anyway, so these are just one way to kind of break down that hiking trail collection. So undoubtedly, our most famous hiking trail in the state is the Appalachian Trail. And I know there are people here that have great knowledge of the AT. But so I just want to maybe start with that and talk about how wonderful it is. So the AT goes, from the Maryland border. Well, it goes from Maine to Georgia, of course. But in Pennsylvania, it goes from the Maryland-PA border the whole way to the PA-New Jersey border. I think it's about 230 miles-ish. I know that number changes sometimes. And it goes through the South Mountains, crosses the Cumberland Valley, and then is up pretty much on the Kittatinny Ridge the whole way to New Jersey. It takes in these different landforms and just has all kinds of specialness to it. So just kind of giving you, I guess, a little intro to different parts of the trail on and just a small sampling of some of those unique places. Does anybody know where this was taken? Well, Marion. Okay, I'll let Marion.
I'm gonna go with Pole Steeple.
Very good. She is correct. So
It's really close to my house.
So the Pole Steeple in, I guess that's probably on the Cumberland County line, Cumberland Adams County line maybe. So we're looking north here at Laurel Lake and Pine Grove Furnace State Park and some of the Michaud State Forest. But this is a lovely place. There's a nice connector trail, the Pole Steeple Trail, but this is adjacent to the AT. And this gives you a nice sort of flavor for that Michaud State Forest area. So, I just want to wrap up. I'm sorry I've probably gone on too long already. But I just want to say that, the Mid-State Trail Association, Blue Mountain Eagle Climbing Club, all these organizations working around the state, plus KTA, one of the things we do is take care of trails. And as we like to say, trails don't maintain themselves. So we hope that you'll not only become an avid backpacker through your experience today, but also maybe you'll become an avid volunteer and help take care of the trails that you love. So I guess I'll leave it at that. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions or anything, please let me know. But just before I forget, I did bring a few things for you. We have a map of some of these major hiking trails in Pennsylvania. You can take one of those. We have a regulars for membership brochure. We have stickers you can have, and we have some information about our trail care events. Not all of them, but many of them that we knew about when we put the brochure together a couple months ago. We have a lot going on throughout the year with that. And then two special events I want to mention that may interest you. One, if you want to just kind of dabble in trail maintenance and experience it, we're going to have an event working with a whole bunch of other organizations in the Michaud State Forest on National Trails Day, Saturday, June 1st. Free camp out on Friday night, 3 big breakfast for everybody, bagged lunches, picnic dinner, live music, and all you have to do is go out and work the trails that day. We're going to have several different project sites working on different trails in and around the Michaud Forest. And then we have for those of you involved in the life of KTA already, there's a traditional fall hiking weekend. And this year we're going to do it in the lower Susquehanna Riverlands, October 18th to 20th, but it's going to be unique format because it's going to be throughout the region, and there's just going to be, it's a decentralized event. So there'll just be a menu, and you just pick which activities you want to go to. Not just hikes, lots of hikes, but not just hikes. Other activities as well, seminars, hands-on stewardship projects, etc. So feel free to check that out. But again, thank you for your interest in backpacking and trails, and glad you could be part of this day. So thank you.
So we're about to have a presentation on cooking on the trail and meals for the trail, and I was really looking forward to this one. So I asked, and you're going to get to hear at least some of it yourself. So enjoy. Really enjoying the format that this club has put on here to help educate. And honestly, I didn't even expect this much as what I'm getting. So this is a real treat.
All right, we're going to start presentation number 2.
All right, take it away. As we all know, we go out to the woods. We get hungry. I don't like eating bad food. My mother's stepfather was a chef, and he said there's no excuse to eat bad food. So don't, okay? Learn how to cook. I got a couple things here that this is all put together by buying it at the local grocery store. This is nothing online. This is nothing of those processed bags that you get, that you warm and hit RREMs. You don't have any of that. This is all stuff you go to the grocery store and buy when you go get your groceries. Spend the time looking for what you might want to eat out on the trail. Because if it's food you like, you're going to eat it. Second, a lot of things that we need to do is care about our health on the trail. We eat all sorts of garbage. Protein, sugar, garbage. What we need to eat is protein, carbohydrates, and fiber. For that last reason, you get your fiber. What I do is I think about what I want to eat. I'm going to the woods to have a good time. Let's make it memorable. Eat something that you like. A lot of things, we don't have refrigeration out there on the trail. So the only refrigeration we have is cold weather and being unprepared. So what I do is, easiest thing is, we all want breakfast. Try to make it something you like to eat. Yeah, we have the oatmeal. But you always want to start with something warm in the morning. All right, coffee, no problem. But one of the things I do is Cecil Seasoning makes an apple cinnamon herb tea. Everything in these packets are edible. Make your tea, put it in your oatmeal. Eat it. It's good for you. It's some fiber too. Have your tea. These are a godsend. Individual packet food, meat packages. If you want to eat them, you can warm them up, you can eat them cold. Doesn't matter. Part of this is we're also going to be taking everything that we take in, we take out. We leave nothing, we bury nothing. Leave no trace. You weren't there. Okay? Quick, easy meat. Doubled ham. Okay? All this stuff can be bought in the grocery store. I don't know about you guys. I love a good fried egg outside. Do not buy them from the grocery store. Buy them from your local farmer unwashed. These will stay fresh for 30 days. Unwashed. Now you do have to be careful handling them. This is probably not going to be the best container. Those little yellow cartons that you buy is probably good. Maybe cut it in half. So that's a breakfast. What you see up here on the table is probably enough food for one person for 2 days. I got something else under there that I'll explain in a little bit. Lunch. I make my own trail mix. I buy bulk nuts, sunflower seeds, salted, because you're going to want to get the salt back in your system that you sweat it out, even in the middle of winter. Energy, chocolate bits, dark chocolate, of course. It's got to be dark chocolate. Peanut butter crackers. Peanut butter can be gotten in powdered form. Be careful which one you get. Some of them kind of, some of them are pretty good. It's a trial and error. Quick energy, protein again. I went to the grocery store the other night. I counted about 20 different types of beef, chicken, and tuna out there, as well as salmon. This was $1.98. Okay? Didn't take any refrigeration. And you can plastic fork or the fork that you have in your backpack already, you can eat it. Snack food while walking down the trail is along with your trail mix. Carrots, celery, nuts, all that sort of stuff. Something you got to keep your energy up while you're moving down the trail. You can reach into your side pocket, pull this stuff out. You can pick this up as you cross the road at a convenience store if you're out on the trail long term. These they don't need refrigeration. Celery keeps, doesn't need refrigeration. Other thing that I like is, always like something warm for lunch, especially if it's cold. Bouillon cubes. This one's a vegetable bouillon cube. So you have a hot broth lunch. Individual package of olives. You can get them, all different types of food out there. You can get it olives. I know there was some hummus out there. There's unrefrigerated guacamole dip for your crackers. Get your crackers. But you have it all. It's all in preserve. It's all ready to go.
Any other questions about food?
I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. We need to get back on schedule.
So that's going to wrap us up for this great little get together we had, the Blue Mountain Hiking Club. It has been a light drizzle, but where I'm at, it hasn't gotten through the trees yet. You can see that the classes are still going on, and well, it's been great, informative, and I think it's really been a great introductory to a lot of people, and I know I certainly have enjoyed it. So until next time, peace.